Hi.
Hi.
First of all, how are you? How do you like in Budapest?
Nagyon jó.
Very good.
Ja. Sprichst du Deutsch? Do you speak German? Because I don't speak Hungarian. It's just a few words.
No, sorry. I can't speak German. Nicht so gut.
Nicht so gut. That's good. No. I always love being in Budapest. Since I grew up in Germany, we used to come here all the time on holidays. And in recent years, I've also done some filming here. I always love coming here.
And as an actor who was born in East Germany, what was it like to play a Soviet character in Stranger Things?
Well, it was interesting, and of course, my own story or history helped me a little bit because I had to study Russian in school, when I was offered the part, I thought it would mainly be English with a Russian accent, but then it turned out there was a lot of real Russian in it, and then I was like, God, but that's really going to be tricky because I wanted to do it justice, and I wanted to do it as well as possible.
And you speak a fair amount of Russian in the show. So you speak Russian like a third language or something like that?
Unfortunately not. So I think it's a beautiful language. I mean, back in the day when we had to study it at school, nobody really liked it because we were like, oh, what are we going to do with Russian? But I always thought it was a very poetic language. And so I had a dialect coach for the show. So I practiced a lot, and I spoke to some real Russians who watched it, and I think I did okay.
And what is it like to be a part of a TV show that is this big scale and really hyped and really popular?
It's amazing. Well, the thing was when I was a fan of the show myself from the start because it's set in the 80s. I was born in the 70s, so I was a teenager in the 80s, and I can relate to a lot of things, and it's so beautifully done. And when I got the part, I was really happy, but then at the same time I thought, wow, it's going to be seen in the whole world, and I can't fuck it up, so I have to.
Yes, but you had a lot of practice. We can say that because you played the part in Game of Thrones, and Hagar. How hard was it to get into that manner of speech, that his strange manner of speech?
It wasn't really hard. I mean, that was the first thing that struck me when I auditioned for the part. I thought, well, that's really a weird way of speaking. A man always talks in the third person about himself, and then, but the way George R. R. Martin wrote that is very clever because it kind of evokes this mysterious feeling or quality, and I, as an actor, immediately had the feeling that the speech defines the character, you know. So by giving him this very strange way of talking, that already tells a lot about the character.
And in the show, you get to know to a lot of other actors, actresses. So, is there anyone who you are in contact with still since the show?
Yeah, I mean, I'm still in touch with a few of the people. I did an indie movie with Iwan Rian before we did Game of Thrones, so we see each other once in a while. But on the show itself, my storyline was pretty much standalone or isolated. So I just did scenes with Arya. which was great, but I didn't meet a lot of the other guys during filming. But once in a while, at Comic-Cons, for instance, we run into each other, and then it's always great.
Yeah, and you were the voice actor of Buzz Lightyear in Lightyear. So about that, what are the challenges of voice acting? How is it compared to real acting when you can, I don't know, gesturate or something like that?
It's great fun, but it's not easy because normally, as you said, you have gestures, you have your face, you have your hands, and when you do an animated film or a voiceover, you just have your voice. But at the same time, you're allowed to do many more things with your voice because you have to create like this entire world just with the sound of your voice, and that's very interesting to work on something like that.
Yes, and is there a policy that you have to sound like the original actor, or just do your thing? And
no, and I also think that wouldn't work if it was just dubbing. You need to, of course, you listen to the original to get a feeling for the general sense and situation and the mood, but then you have to make it your own, and you have to find a way to tell the story with your voice.
And since we are at Comic-Con Budapest, I really have to ask you is there any favorite comic that you love to read, or a favorite superhero?
I mean, I grew up in East Germany, as we already talked about that. So yeah. I grew up without superheroes, except for my mom, of course. And no, I mean, I like Marvel, I like DC, and if they ever called, I'm sure I wouldn't say no.
So if someone is watching from DC,
this is a message.
Is there any specific directors or actors that you really love to you would really love to work with? So since we have discussed this Marvel and DC thing.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many directors I would love to work with, but most of the time it doesn't go that way, you know.
Yeah,
I mean, of course. Of course, I could say I would like to work with Michael Haneke, for instance, or Emir Kusturica, or of course I would like to work with Pedro Almodovar, just to name a few European ones. I mean, there's so many great American directors I would love to work with, but this would be a very long interview if I started to name them all.
Yeah, of course. And last but not least, as I am from IGN Hungary, I really have to ask you if you play any video games. No.
I used to, but like a long time ago, when I was when I still was in theater, like 25 years ago, I had a phase where I played video games. But I always liked strategy games. Like there was like what was it? The one called that I loved, Tropico.
Tropico, yes.
It's very old.
Yeah.
But then I also realized that I'm spending so much time. I mean, especially when the game was good, I would spend nights and nights and nights, and it wasn't really healthy for me.
It's addictive. Yeah. Okay, Tom. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
And enjoy your day at Comic-Con.
Cheers. Thanks, Gabor.
Thank you very much.